WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us Jaana Narsipur. She is a jazz vocalist, and her latest album is The Recollection. Welcome, Jaana.
Hi, nice to be with you.
It's wonderful to be with you too. So, tell us about why the Recollection.
Well, that's a very good question. So it is essentially a collection that is also about my memories, my musical memories from the 80s. And it's almost less of a collection and almost more like a treasured kind of memory box, you know? And in listening to the album, I hope that everybody would, remember, recollect these songs, but also that it's reimagining them, reshaping the original songs.
Mhm. In jazz way or in your way? And what is your way exactly?
Both, actually. So, I would say, my way is a combination of things. It is very much about jazz and my jazz training. It's also about a tradition of jazz vocalists who, really reinvent what they're doing, whether it's with the melody, whether it's lyrically, it's the arrangement, whatever it is that they're doing. So it's a combination of many things, including my love for many different genres of music, which have always informed the way that I approach jazz.
Mhm. You have such a beautiful singing voice and also a beautiful speaking voice as well. Has your voice also always been like this, or after training, it became more melodic and more pleasing to the ear?
Oh, thank you. Well, I come from a background of classical training. So I started out as a classical singer, and that's why I went to music school. And actually, I lived in Chicago um, for 10 years. I went to Northwestern for my undergrad for music school, and then I lived there for a couple of years, and then I went back to school for my music education degree. And then I started teaching in Chicago. So I have a great love, a great affinity for the city.
Where did you
Um,
teach in Chicago?
Say again?
Where did you teach in Chicago?
Oh gosh, I taught part-time with trying to remember. I think it was such a long time ago. Urban Gateways and Chicago Arts Partnership and Education. I think they were called, the acronym was CAPE. And then after I got my degree, then I taught in Chicago public schools. I taught on the south side near Comiskey Park.
Oh.
Yeah.
And did you get a chance to inspire some young people to pursue a career of singing?
Hmm. I don't think back in those days, but more recently, I think that the inspiration flows both ways. I have some very talented students now, teenagers who are pursuing different avenues within music, and it's nice when I can bring in my love of jazz, improvisation, how eclectic tastes in music can be really beneficial to having a career in music.
Yes. So you teach in New York now?
I do, yes. I mean, I come from a background of 15 years teaching in public schools, mostly middle school and upper elementary. And I last year was my last year of teaching full time. So now I actually teach privately at a conservatory, and then I teach in my home studio, which is where I am right now.
Oh.
So yeah, I love teaching. It very much is part of my identity.
So when you teach, do you use lessons from when maybe you took some music ed or
Oh, definitely.
yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But I do also, it depends on, the grade and age level, but whenever possible, I try to thread in, elements of jazz. And I've written, curriculum that's focused on jazz units. I'm seeing the lights flickering here. We've had a lot of weird weather things going on. Actually, I'm coming off of our power was just restored today after
Well,
36 hours of no power. So just giving you a warning, I don't think anything's gonna happen right now, but I am seeing the lights flickering. So
yeah. Well,
fingers
fingers crossed.
crossed,
Yes,
right?
yes. Because the last time we were together, my internet went down. So it's
Yes,
yeah.
I remember that. And I was thinking of you today because I thought, wow, if this power doesn't come back on, I'm going to have to email and say that, shoot, we're going to have to postpone this interview again. This is terrible.
So is it still so hot in New York? Is it has the
No,
oh good.
no, it's the storms that passed through actually on July 4th. It preempted many of the fireworks north of the city.
Mhm.
So that was what, really cooled it down. And it hasn't stopped raining since Saturday night. So
Oh
it's
my goodness. Wow.
drenching. Yeah. All extremes, right?
Yes.
That's America. So,
So has the weather inspired you in any way in composing?
hmm. I don't know if it's inspired me in composing, but one of the songs on the album, Here Comes the Rain Again.
Yeah.
Um, yes, and I've noticed that at WZRD that that's one of the songs that's been getting a lot of airplay, which is wonderful. And so Here Comes the Rain Again is I guess we could say it's a cover, a jazz cover of the Eurythmics tune with Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart. And so I wasn't really so much, I think, thinking specifically about the rain when I was arranging it, but after the album has come out, I've tried my hand at making some homemade music videos,
Oh.
and so it's been lovely. Excuse me, finding some already made videos online, but then also going around in my area, and I live in a really beautiful area, lots of woods and hills and things like that. So and taking video shorts of when the rain is coming and
Mhm.
and just trying to sort of shape that into a music video because that even ties into that love of the 80s and when music videos were everything.
Mhm. Yes. So they were coming out about that time and then they just exploded.
Yes,
When
exactly.
when you speak and you like you're speaking so softly but you're projecting and does that come from your understanding of uh, a vocalist profile?
Yes, I would say it comes equally from being a vocalist and from being a teacher. And as a teacher, because I've been a music teacher, and I was often, though not always in those years, I was often performing, at the same time that, I was teaching. I, learned the value of saving my voice.
Mhm.
And just as you say, projecting my voice, so of course, and that's there in music. And I teach, young and up and coming musicians about, the difference between, see, like right now, I'm lowering my volume,
Mhm.
but projecting my voice, enunciation, pronunciation, dynamics, and there are so many beautiful gradations, between soft and loud, you know.
Yes. And if you use them perfectly, then you could add many textures to a song.
Yes, yes. Well, I'd like to ask you if you've listened to the album, what songs, specifically do you really like or that, really speak to you and why? Because that helps me actually know what to talk to you about in terms of the album and the songs. I love to know what people like.
Oh, I think I've played almost every song of yours.
Okay.
Yes. And then Here Comes the Rain, definitely, yes. And let me think. I can't the titles are kind of escaping me. I
Oh,
think
that's okay.
yeah,
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 I didn't mean to put you on the spot or anything.
yes. I was
Yeah.
going to grab the album, but I think it's in my among other albums. Yes.
Well, I mean, the album starts out with Breakout, and we
Uh,
wanted to start the album on a really upbeat, fun, kind of groovy feel, and Breakout was, the perfect one for that. Plus,
mhm,
it's just I don't know, it's such a happy song, like you can't listen to it and not just feel, uplifted, and feel like, just dancing around a little bit.
mhm.
And it was good because we have a lot of, I think, quieter, more introspective songs on the album, and we wanted to balance things out.
Why don't
Um,
you
uh,
tell us your progression as you plan the album?
of course, yes. So, really, I knew that I wanted to make another album, and that started probably a year and a half ago, maybe, towards the beginning of 2025. Um, And I didn't have like a very particular idea of what I was going to do. And then I was actually, and this is a true story, I had ordered food for myself and my husband, and I was waiting for it in the restaurant. And they were playing this long, like kind of music-y version of Simply Red's Holding Back the Years. And there were no vocals in it. But it was really long and teased out, and there was a lot of, additional, I don't know, saxophone solos and things in it. And as I was sitting there and waiting for my food, I thought, this is a great song. I loved the song so much. And what could I do with this? What could I do with this? And then I started thinking about other songs that were from that era. And that was really how the concept started to develop, but it was never the concept came first, and then I tried to find songs to fit the concept.
Mhm.
It was more about these songs that I had loved for a long time. And they were always, in my playlists. First they were on CDs, and then, digital and all those things. And so then bit by bit, each song kind of, fell into the planning of the album. And I worked very closely with Nikki Adams, who's a wonderful pianist and a fantastic composer and arranger. And we are also good friends. And so, most of the songs were pretty unfamiliar to him because he's quite a bit younger than I am. And so, we would have these workshopping sessions that we would meet at a studio in Manhattan because we don't live anywhere close by to each other.
Mhm.
And we would go through the sessions, and then we would also have Zoom sessions with each other, so that we could work remotely. And then we would, kind of work collaboratively both remotely and then in person when we would meet. So it was a very organic process, and that's a wonderful thing because I think sometimes I hear certain albums and I'll admire what the musicians are doing, or I'll admire specific songs, but sometimes I feel like there's something a little bit forced about it, as though they're trying to find songs, especially if they're not originals. They're trying to find songs to fit a particular idea. And I think that it should be the other way around.
Mhm.
You know, that you craft the songs, that it's more organic, that I fell in love with these original songs a long time ago, but then I fell in love with them again by, bringing them to life in a very different way.
Mhm. Were there songs that you planned also on the album, but you cut out? But now you
Mm.
maybe I should have put that song in there.
Not really, but there were certain songs that I kept trying to find, what was we wanted to, approach each song in a very individualistic way, you know. And I think that we succeeded because none of them sound like each other. There's nothing, there's the common thread of the concept, the recollection. But each song is, very intrinsically very different. And remind me what your question was, because I went a little bit off there.
Were there any songs that you
Ah,
put
right.
out, but then you
Now I
wanted,
remember.
yeah, you wanted to, now you think about it and then, oh, maybe that song would have fit somehow as well.
So one song that I tried very hard for a few months to find an arrangement, develop an arrangement that would work was Missing You. And I forget the composer, John something or another. And I loved it, and it was, one of those pop songs that just got so much radio play. But I couldn't ever find a way to make it really, work for me. Something that would make it a little more interesting, and unique. One song that has come up that we want to add to when we tour with the live show, which I'm planning on in 2027. So we're in the midst of planning some mini tours. So one song that we're thinking of doing is a Lisa Stansfield song, and I don't know if you remember Lisa Stansfield from the 80s, but her first big song was "Been Around the World." You
Mm.
know that one. Been around the world and I can't find my baby. I don't know when, I don't know why. That was a huge thing, and she was so iconic. She had such a great, unique look to her, and a great sound and everything. So it's not that particular song, and I'm gonna just have to make you wait until you hear it for real. But not too many songs. We I didn't want to get into the weeds, so to speak, get too involved with a song and then, see no way to really bring it to fruition. So no, everything that we wanted to be on the album was on the album.
Mhm. When you approach an arrangement, are you thinking about how it makes you feel, or uh, what is that the individualistic element in the song that you're striving for so that it fits, it meets your expectations?
Yeah. So, well, I'll kind of give you an example of something I'm working on right now. So, it's this beautiful ballad that I heard, I think last summer. There's a wonderful New York-based vocalist, Mary Foster Conklin, and she has a radio show as well called gosh, I'm blanking, but I'm gonna get it in just a second. And so she did a show and she performed this song, and it was so perfect for the summer. And so then I went and listened to it, and there are not a lot of recordings of it. So
Mm,
that is one thing that I do when I am arranging something is that I go and I listen to many different versions.
mm,
Male vocalists, female vocalists, old versions, from the golden age of jazz, and things from, Broadway and, more contemporary versions. And it's not that I necessarily base it on something specific, but I want to fill my head with the different approaches to that song so that I can arrive at something, you know? So for this particular song, I love in this version, Sarah Vaughan, um, the instrumentation starts in a very kind of like um, I don't know, not magical way, but it's like setting a scene. It's painting a scene, the instrumentation. So as I'm arranging it, I'm thinking about that and thinking about, well, how can I create that? How can I paint a picture, before my voice ever comes in,
mm,
you know? And then how can my voice and the song, the melody, how can that complete the painting?
mm.
You know,
Wow.
I never think about a singer being the sole focus of a song,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes.
Um, it has to be that I'm part of the ensemble. And if the most important thing is to tell the story, then it's everybody telling the story. We all play our part in the band.
Mhm. And uh, is the story the song story, or do you sometimes like find a different aspect of the song as you add the jazz elements to it?
That's a really good question. Well, I think that that is the marvel of music, and then, the layers that a singer can add to it, right? Because instrumentalists are, of course, telling stories and telling fascinating, beautiful stories. But then the singer has, the responsibility of the words, So we're painting.
Mhm.
And what is that picture? What is that painting that I'm creating? Sometimes it's part of my story, but sometimes it's just a story, you know. I'll find elements of me in it, but I think what's always more important to me is that when I sing it, when I perform it, the people who are listening, and I've had that happen before, where people will come up to me after a show and, and say, you know, you so reminded me of this moment in my life. Or I had a really hard day today, such and such happened, and the way that you sang that song, the way the band played that song, it just took me completely out of my head to a different place, you know. So in that sense, I'm not so much telling my story, but I'm telling a story that resonates with different people in different ways.
Yes, I think we all love a story. So when you become a great storyteller and incorporated all these elements, the
Yes.
your audience enjoys it, and then they really don't even know what they're enjoying. They just really love it.
Yes, yes. And Chicago really shaped me.
How so?
That was where I fell in love with jazz. So
Ah,
I went to Northwestern as a classical singer, and I didn't know anything about jazz. I don't think I'd even ever heard jazz, or if I did, I didn't know that it was jazz. And Northwestern, if you didn't know, it's a very like competitive, very focused school
mhm,
that now and has for years had a jazz studies department. But in those days, they didn't have any jazz going on. And partway through my undergraduate degree, I found myself kind of uh, not really loving, the classical world and what how much I was immersed in it. And then I met a guy. He was much older than me, much to my father's dismay. But he had a wonderful collection of jazz music. He was a excuse me, he was a trumpeter as well. And so in being in that relationship, I fell in love with jazz, and started listening a lot to it. And then of course Chicago, then now for a very long time, has had a wonderful scene, and
mhm,
it's very welcoming. It's, I think, not very intimidating, you know. New York can be very intimidating, it's like this epicenter, and you've got a lot of people who are really good, you know. So Chicago was a little more accepting of me as a young person who was learning about jazz. So I would go to a lot of different jam sessions. I'd go to the Green Mill. There used to be a place in Wicker Park called The Note. Um, and they would have a Sunday jam session that I would go to, that was hosted by this radio guy, Larry something or another. And I think that he used to be a host on WBEZ, which you probably know for a long time was like the jazz station. Um, and yeah, so I would go to a lot of jam sessions. I met many musicians. I used to go and hear Kurt Elling when he was first, like his first album, and he was playing in some of the local clubs. But I mean, obviously, his star ascended so quickly because he is, one of the great talents of the 20th century.
What was the first your first jazz performance then? Was it in Chicago?
Yeah, it was definitely in Chicago. That's a good question. I have to think about that. We'll have to come back to that because I can't quite remember. It might have been at the Note.
Oh,
Um, I did a lot of like, private events.
mm,
So like fundraisers and private parties. I remember there was a club called Pops for Champagne that was in Lakeview or Lincoln Park. And they used to do a lot of jazz there, and I had a couple of gigs there. Um, so yeah, I loved it. It was a great training ground for me, you
mm,
know.
mm. So when did you start incorporating jazz into your teaching? You,
Uh, Pretty much right away.
oh,
And it wasn't just jazz. I have always incorporated blues, the history of the blues,
mhm,
jazz, but also hip hop.
yes.
Um, I think it's extremely important for children, starting early on to learn about how the development of music in our country, has everything to do with the history of the people, who came here. Um, and jazz would not be without blues,
Mm,
you know, and blues would not be without, a very painful history of slavery. And all of these things, are very intertwined in this country's history. I mean, jazz is, a true American art form. And it's something that children should know about. And when I was growing up, we didn't really learn about that stuff. We really learned only about classical music, you
mm.
know, and European art forms.
You grew up
And
in Stockholm?
in Stockholm, no. No, I grew up in here in the
Oh,
US.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 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 not in Europe. I did live in Europe
Mhm.
briefly for 2 years in Amsterdam.
Oh,
But no, I grew up here. I grew up in the South, and then I moved up to Chicago for Northwestern and music school when I was 18. But yeah, music has always, played a very huge role in my life in all my influences. And even when I wasn't performing, and I did go a number of years, I think, where I was not performing much at all.
oh,
Um, and then in 2000, I guess it was 2007, I attended this workshop in Amherst, Massachusetts, that used to go on for years every summer called Jazz in July.
mm,
And Sheila, I don't know if you know Sheila Jordan, but Sheila Jordan, NEA jazz master and one of the great vocalists. She was teaching there every year, and meeting her actually changed my life
mm, yes.
because I had kind of drifted away from performing. I drifted away from jazz, and Sheila really was this presence, but this very welcoming presence, and she was always very accepting, and musically critical, but in a great way. And those 2 weeks were what persuaded me that I had to go back to school for my master's in jazz,
Mm.
and I never looked back after that.
When did you learn how to breathe in your voice lessons? But
Read? You mean read music?
breathe, breathe
Oh, breathe.
from a
Oh,
diaphragm. Yes, that was
yeah.
I'm a kind of I was learning how to sing too, and that was a major point in my education singing. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, honestly, it was being a classical singer, you know. And I've heard this from other people. I've even heard this from, vocal therapists. When people are having vocal issues
Mhm.
and they go to a vocal therapist, that, the foundational things of breath support,
Mhm.
of posture, and placement as well. Um, uh, Once you learn those, um, they're sort of embedded.
Right.
They're just embedded in what you do, you know.
Mhm.
So how I learned to breathe was, partly through the voice lessons, but honestly, I was a chorus girl, in the sense that I loved chorus. And my chorus teacher in high school, we were all kind of groupies. We were very loyal to her.
Mhm.
And being in chorus, also taught me about being in ensembles. And I think that's very important, to not think of oneself as only a soloist. And therefore, what I do is the most important thing, and everything else should, kind of be built around it. So it was partly from being in choruses and partly from my voice lessons.
Yeah.
And uh, that really formed, I think, the basis for everything. But the breathing, it is not only breath support, but I have become certified in somatic voice work.
Mhm.
And the somatic voice work is incredible. It really has completely changed the way that I teach, and it's changed the way that I approach singing. And I used a lot of the techniques that I learned last summer. I was in the workshops for about 2.5 weeks,
Mhm.
and they were every day, Monday through Friday. Actually, no, I take it back. It was 7 days a week. My bad.
Oh. Mhm.
And it was incredible. I mean, all the teachers were wonderful. The originator of the somatic voice method is Jeannie Levetri, and that SOV, as it's called, or and also SVU, sorry, but SVO is, it's very much about placement, and that means like, are you using your head voice correctly? Are you belting? Are you using what's called a mixed voice? And these things don't necessarily have to do with breath support. They have to do with placement, where it lies in your mouth. Are you using your hard palate? Or are you using your soft palate? Are you bringing your sound forward, or are you having a more open, breathy sound? And there's so many, of course, variations on all these things. But yeah, breathing is really only part of it.
It was very hard for me to learn it. And then, of course, I always wanted to. I thought it would be hard. Maybe that kind of helped me back as well. So when you say bring the voice forward, is that like what my teacher said, singing in the mask?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you?
Bringing the sound forward,
Yeah.
which sounds, very general. And if you and I right now, and I've taught online many times, I've given many voice lessons online. If you and I were in a voice lesson right now, instead of, using a lot of general phrases, I would be very, very specific with you. And I would demonstrate. And I would demonstrate for you not bad sound and good sound, but I would demonstrate for you those different sounds. What's airy and breathy, what's more bright, you know. There's this idea that if you're going to belt, then it must be loud. Well, that's not necessarily the case. you
Mhm.
know Also, I think that there are many singers, especially developing singers, where their voices are still growing. you
Yes.
know and to rush into belting is really a bad idea,
Mhm.
because it will push the voice too much and too fast. Um, so, belting is something that, a singer should only really be learning when they've already been working on developing their head register
Mhm.
and their chest register. And then we're trying to bring the two together to develop a healthy, workable, model. for how to do it. And in terms of having a bright, more forward in the mask kind of a sound, there were several times in the making of the album where I had to have more of that sound.
Oh.
In You Can't Get What You Want. If I was going to have something that was more lyrical and pretty, it wouldn't fit the song.
Mm,
The song is supposed to be a little bit, if not aggressive, assertive. You know, there
mm,
needs to be sort of a very pragmatic way about, because the whole song is kind of like you're telling your experience, but you're also kind of giving advice.
mm,
You can't get what you want till you know what you want, you
mm,
know. So I don't want to be lovely and lyrical. I want to sound, kind of a little world weary,
mm,
and like, I'm just doing things in a matter of fact way. So that had to be, more of a bright, in the mask sound.
mm. So were you in a soprano in chorus?
Yes, yes, I was. And then when I was in college, actually, I was, having some vocal issues, I think. And the chorus director switched me to alto, or maybe it was soprano two or alto one. But it was actually a very good thing for me because it improved my sight reading greatly.
It seemed as if in the beginning I was uh, not comfortable with singing soprano, and then I sang alto. However, later when it felt when I had more practice in chorus, felt more comfortable singing in soprano, and my voice seemed more comfortable singing as a soprano rather than as an alto.
Right. I mean, as you know, with jazz, you know, we don't really do those kinds of designations, that someone is a soprano, is an alto, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm,
I think that a lot of it has to do with the color and the timbre of the voice.
mhm,
Some voices are simply just lighter. Some voices have more weight, and more texture to them.
mhm.
I myself have a pretty big range.
Yes.
Um, uh, I can sing quite low.
Mhm,
Um, but if I'm doing that, I also have to be very mindful of how I'm singing it,
mhm,
right? Because for my voice, because I am more of a soprano, if I put too much weight, too much heaviness in my voice when I'm singing, say, like a low F or a G, like that, um, it can not hurt my voice, but it'll make it harder for me to transition into my upper register.
mhm,
So, I'm always kind of, I, I don't know if I'm necessarily intellectualizing, but I want to develop the muscle memory
mhm.
for a particular song, what I'm going to do with my voice. And then if I practice it that way, then the muscle memory comes into play and then it gets memorized.
Mhm. And when you're the somatic voice work, is that more of protecting the voice, making the good sound, but protecting the voice as you're singing? Because
Well, somatic voice work is ultimately always about healthy, functional singing.
yes, because the way I make that helps me a lot. Understanding the way you speak. There are very few people who speak as you speak. It seems as if the way you speak it sounds beautiful, but it also seems as if you're not uh, using any pressure on your vocal cords. It's very light.
Hmm.
You're using it, but it's like brushing lightly against it. No damage at all. Like not
Oh,
yeah. It seems that way.
thank you. Thank you. Well, like I said, I'm a firm believer that and you don't have to, have gone to school and have a music degree for this stuff, but I am a firm believer that, once we learn the how of good singing, then, what we're singing, it'd be jazz, it can be, smooth jazz, it could be R&B, pop, rock
Mhm,
to a certain extent. You know, it's all the same because really you're just going to be using the same instrument with the same good habits, you know?
What about musical theater? You
I
said.
love musical theater. I haven't done a lot of it.
Mm,
It's not really my wheelhouse personally, but I teach a lot of students who are very much into musical theater, and in which case there's a lot of work on how to develop a healthy belting sound.
mm,
Um, Also a lot of work about interpretation, right?
right.
You know, and there's so many different subgenres within musical theater, pre 1960s ish, you had much more of that, classical type of musical theater,
Mm,
the Rodgers and Hammerstein,
yes.
those
Carousel.
kinds of, yeah, exactly, carousel. Um, um, it might as well be spring.
Mm,
Okay, the original "It Might As Well Be Spring" is just it's so lovely and lyrical, and it's that kind of sound, But then as the 20th century went on, composers started, bringing more, different types of pop and rock elements,
mm,
and that's where, you would start to hear more of that belting sound. And of course, now modern musical theater is so varied.
mm,
Sondheim, the different voices, his muses, everybody from Bernadette Peters, Mandy Patinkin, and you name it, everybody, has a different and unique sound. And then, there's Hamilton and, where there's actual rapping going on and hip
right.
hop elements. So there is no one, way, I think, to sing in musical theater. But I am a really, firm believer. I keep saying this again and again, but, it isn't only about belting,
Yes.
you know? The voice can be projected. The voice can, express many different emotions, and the voice can be plenty loud enough
Yes.
without that forced, pushed sound,
Yes.
you know, which is very hard to sustain, if that is what you are doing every night, you
Mm,
know, in a show. It's a lot of wear and tear.
right. Exactly. But there is a way, right, to avoid that wear and tear, but maintain the sound. Is there a way to do it?
I mean, who am I to say? I'm not in a musical theater show on
Yes.
on Broadway, every, night, 4 or 5 nights a week. Um, I will say that we have to, as singers, we always have to learn how to save our voices,
Hmm.
you know.
Yes.
In the jazz world, sometimes it's about building a set list,
Hmm.
you know, front loading certain songs. And excuse me, and it's so nice that you're saying these things about my speaking voice, but I myself am finding that I have a lot of kind of hoarseness and everything because it's been so humid. There's been so
Uh,
much rain that
yes.
it's kind of making my voice like that. But yes, I mean, there's just so many different ways, to approach singing, and I love so many different people's voices.
Mm,
Tierney Sutton is, one of my favorite singers out there, and excuse me, her voice is so flowing. It's so lyrical. She always has this very, clear, crystal clear voice. Her voice is like a bell, you know.
yes. Hmm.
And it's just it's so lovely. But I also love Veronica Swift, and Veronica Swift is all over the place in terms of her influences. She's a masterful improviser, you know. And everybody is going to approach the voice differently, you know. So um, I've loved talking with you today. You've asked me such interesting questions as well. It's really been such a pleasure.
What about your Miss Saigon? I heard that that's so hard to sing, and then but uh there there is a way, right, to sing and then without harming the voice because some people seem to have this beautiful voice. How much is it? Would you say a voice is born to a person versus the training of the voice? If it's like proper training and innate gift. So how much is it like when you hear a
Wow.
voice and at the peak of someone's career, let's say.
Right. I mean, I don't know, what really is the peak of someone's career anymore.
Okay.
There are Janice Siegel, from the Manhattan Transfer, and who's been a solo artist, and who hosts Singers Unlimited and all of that. And I've met her a number of times. And I'm always amazed, in the last like 2, 3 years when I've heard her, how well preserved her voice is,
Mm.
you know? And I don't mean like well preserved, like it's, like trapped in amber and it's, never changed. I mean,
I,
but, and she's well into her 70s.
mm,
And,
amazing.
to hear her, for me, when I hear her, I would never know it, you know.
Mm,
So I'm sure that she has a lot of wonderful habits,
mm,
that she engages in on a daily basis.
mm,
I don't know. Who am I to say? I've been singing since I was a baby.
mm.
And I definitely, got my love of music and the voice from my dad's side, and
Oh,
then some from my mom as well.
so your
Neither
dad
of
has
whom
a
were professional singers, but
um,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of it is genetics, right?
mm. So
But it was also
your dad had a beautiful voice then.
yes.
He has a beautiful voice. Yes.
No, unfortunately, he's passed away, but yes,
Okay.
he had a beautiful voice.
Mm,
And I think I grew up, knowing that music could be this thing that maybe not that I was going to do professionally, but
mm,
that music was something that could conjure emotion
mm.
within you. I mean, I know that people would feel emotion when they would hear my dad's voice.
Ah,
I know that I would feel that way,
mm. Did
and I I just had that sense of it, but it is what you make of it. Um, I do sometimes wish that I had started really seriously pursuing jazz when I was in my 20s,
mm,
because maybe my career would be at a very different place now. But I think it's partly, that innate, you say gift, talent, whatever it is, ability, but I think it's a lot of just, perseverance,
mm,
you know, if you're going to pursue it, and it's who you want to be, it's where you feel that, you know, you make sense. Um, Jazz has been this, lifelong love for me.
mm.
It hasn't always been easy for me
Of course.
at all. Not been easy for me. But jazz is just constantly changing.
Mhm,
It's the most, to me, the most beautiful art form there is,
mm,
and it allows for every kind of voice. And I don't mean just the singing voice. It allows for every kind of voice, every kind of sound.
mm,
Um, and that, so many different players, so many different musicians can bring something unique and different to the playing field. And yeah, it's I will never lose that feeling that when I turn on WBGO here, or when I'm in a club, it's as though everything falls into place for me when I hear jazz.
wow. What did your dad uh, give you the first a little nudge? What did he sing with you when you were a little girl, a little baby?
Yeah, I did actually. I sang with my parents a lot. I sang some traditional Indian music.
Oh, and
And
was that
then
like just at home singing for pleasure, or was
no,
it
actually,
performance?
we would not perform, but yeah, for like Indian events and things like that,
Mm,
we were known as that family, who sang together and stuff.
Mhm.
And then once I guess I was about 11 or so, and I started taking piano lessons and became pretty good at it. I had the knack for it, I guess you would say. But I wasn't a singer right away. I remember being in middle school and feeling very, awkward, and I didn't have much of a voice. Um, and then I don't know really what happened. I think it was kind of physiological, which is why, I do talk to kids sometimes, that you don't have to be great at it when you're really young. That's
Mhm.
okay, you know,
And
and
what was
everybody
your
isn't. I was not, amazing at it, from the time that I was a child or whatever it was.
mm. So when you were growing up and singing these Indian songs with your family, was that in the US or was that in India?
Yes. No,
In the
that was
US.
here. Yeah.
Oh, at events. Oh, nice, very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Then you grew
they
up,
were.
yeah, you grew up speaking your native language at home then.
Somewhat, yeah. So my parents were from different parts of India.
Uh-huh.
So when we spoke, it was more my mother's language, but it was primarily English most of the time. Most of the songs, though, that we sang were primarily in Sanskrit.
Oh,
Sanskrit is one of the foundational languages in India. So Urdu, which is what Farsi and which is spoken, in parts of the subcontinent and going into the Middle East. And then Urdu is forms helps form the basis of Hindi.
oh,
So that's like kind of like if you think of India split into two parts, that's like the northern part of India.
mm,
But then when you get into the south, the foundational language is Sanskrit.
oh,
And Sanskrit is the language upon which all the other South Indian languages are based upon.
wow. So did you sing pop songs, Indian pop songs or folk songs?
More like folk songs,
Oh,
and they were more like also what are called bhajans. Bhajans are traditional, like religious songs. We
oh,
were not a very religious family, but I think that we found, I would say, maybe sort of our spiritual side through singing the music.
oh,
Um, so yeah, I grew up singing all those things, and then when I was a teenager, I started studying music a little more seriously, and um, and then I realized when I was in high school, this is something that I'm not only good at, but maybe this is what I could, do with my life.
yes.
Um, I wasn't really sure what that was going to be. And that was why I went to Northwestern as a classical voice major and then started realizing, I don't know. I don't think this is really for me. And then met that guy
Mhm,
and started listening to jazz. And I thought, oh, so it's okay if I don't have the perfect soprano voice or the perfect, dramatic soprano, coloratura soprano, whatever it is,
uh-huh,
because in jazz, through jazz, I can find my voice.
mhm.
I can find what my sound is.
What was the most difficult song to sing on your album?
Oh, that's a good question. I will tell you, holding back the years.
Oh, mhm.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
why? Why?
so Nikki was saying to me at some point when we were recording, kind of laughing about it with me. He said, "But you wrote it, you know." I mean, I'm the one who wanted to arrange it in 6/8, which we did. I'm the one who had the first line repeated several times. But um, I just couldn't get inside the song. I couldn't figure out how I was going to do it, and it wasn't coming together for me. So I struggled with it a lot.
Mhm,
Excuse me. So then I hired a friend who is a vocalist and a wonderful singer,
Mm.
but I hired her to be the vocal coach for me for the album. I'm so sorry, my voice is a little bit.
Don't get so bad.
And in working with her, I actually was able to find the story within the story.
Mm.
Um, Originally, that song, I always thought it was, like he loved a girl, it was a romantic thing. But Mick Hucknall, the lead singer for Simply Red, he wrote that song actually about his family.
Mhm.
He came from a kind of unhappy life. My vague recollection is that he never knew his father, I think, and there was some abuse that was there. And so, a lot of the lines in the song are about, him feeling very melancholy,
Mm.
um, and remembering things about his childhood. But I didn't want to tell the same story,
Mhm.
you know. I wanted to tell, if not my story, I just wanted to tell a different story.
Mhm.
And in working with this friend, the vocal coach, um, that was what I was able to do. And the great surprise to me was how well that song is done.
Mm.
It's was for I think 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was like the number one single on the jazz charts. And then I've had several people, some friends, but some people whom I don't know, reach out to me and say, "There's such emotion when you sing that, and it feels like you're telling this very, difficult story, but your voice like brings out these other elements of
Mhm.
the story." So it was very hard for me, and I didn't really think that I succeeded in singing it well, and we spent a lot of time in post-production,
Mhm.
redo it, but then and now, I can honestly say that it is one of my top three favorite songs on the album. It was such a struggle, and then it became something that I love now.
Mm. So did you get it to what you want, or just the best of for now? But there might still be a twist in the future.
I think so. Definitely.
What are your
I
other?
hope very much in the coming, months and the next year or so to be, performing the full album, with even, a couple of extra songs thrown in there that Nikki and I, have wanted to do.
Mm.
And so, there's the absolute possibility for that song to, be improved upon, to become more emotional, to become more evocative.
Wow, it's like the recollection then.
Exactly. You never know. There could be a recollection part two.
Yes. What about the other two your favorite songs? What are they?
Let's see. Oh, I still love Breakout. It's
Mhm.
just
Yes.
it's so much fun. It's got such a positive kind of, upbeat message. And I'm very proud of myself that I got to a good place vocally with that song. It,
Mhm.
it took some time because at first it was coming off a little too polite. Um, at first, and I knew it. And then the vocal coach Andrea, I remember her coming into the vocal booth in the studio,
Mm.
and she's great and not like you know critical and like going to make me feel bad about myself, but she was like, yeah, it's not landing yet,
Mm.
and I said, I know it, I'm not able to get to it right now.
Mm.
So then when I went back in the studio in post-production, by then I had worked on it extensively at home,
Mm.
and I was recording myself at home, which I do a lot.
Mm.
And then I play it back and I figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then record it and re-record it and until I know what it is that I want to do, you know. So I'd say that Breakout, that's another favorite.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. And I think Here Comes the Rain Again.
Oh, okay.
It has so many different moods in it, you
Mhm.
know? Um, and I love that. And I love how the drummer and percussionist, Joe Abba, um, you know, we told him in the post-production process, we said, okay, so I want different sounds, acoustic sounds to simulate, a rainstorm.
Oh. Mm.
And it was sort of like, okay, here's your mission statement. Okay, now go do, you know? And he did, and beautifully, and he sent me all these different tracks, and he was like, use whatever you want, don't use anything, it's fine, just, like have at it.
So all
And
different versions of the.
yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. Yeah. And I knew some things I wanted. I knew that I wanted him to use different types of shells,
Mhm.
so that we could, again, simulate the sound of rain.
Oh,
But, is there a storm? Is it a gentle rain? So I think, yeah, here comes the rain again because there's so many different kind of moods and sections to it. And then when we did it live at the album release show on June 4th,
yes.
I had Andrea, the vocalist who was the coach. She sang harmonies with me on
Mm.
several songs, and I wrote out actually different sections for "Here Comes the Rain Again," so
Wow.
that she could sing harmony with me at different times, and I loved it. We did some nice call and response, and other times we were just singing close harmony.
Wow. If our listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go? Jaana Narsipur.
Yes, so there's my website, jaananarsipur.com.
Yes, spell it.
The album itself is available on all platforms. It's also available on through Bandcamp, and that would be jaananarsipur.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
And also, the album is available as a
Oh,
double vinyl LP. And it's gorgeous and it sounds amazing. And I was really so excited that I could produce this on vinyl because it, really harkens back to kind of the original concept
mm,
that, this is like a mixtape. It's like your favorite combination of records.
mm.
So, and I hope to come to Chicago sometime in 2027 with the show.
Perfect. Thank
Yes.
you so much, Jaana Narsipur, and your album, The Recollection.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.